All right, guys. I promise I'll come with a live video today, a product test or building or something. So didn't want to lie to you guys. Got wrapped up earlier, but here we are. So today, Mig Oil Brush Sets. So I've actually had these for about a week and a half. I just got started playing with them recently though. So I bought them in sets because that was the easiest way to test them out. They do some individually. Um, So if we decide to bring these in, we will figure out what's the best way that people like them the best. I think the sets are kind of cool because you get a bunch of the colors you probably need for what you're doing. So for example, this set that has a Zaku on there, which is really cool. Mecha green set, so you had 3 shades of green in there. Weed green, so that's that kind of lighter color on the Zaku. You got Mecha dark green, which would be the darker color on the Zaku. And then you got this one, which is probably good for highlights. Mecha light green, or you could use that for your lighter color. But this is a really bright color, so it would probably have to be toned down. But they're kind of not used for full coverage, but I did find that to work really well for them too. These are more weathering products, and they definitely work great for streaking. So like even these, you put down your base color and you do some nice streaking of what Mig's guys do. They really like high contrast paint jobs where it's a type of pre-shading or post-shading that has a very bright contrast. And then they come in with all these weathering products and kind of work it down to a little bit more of a realistic look, but it's very pops a lot. So they're very into high contrast and it really jumps off of a table. And a lot of their designers do competitions and who design these products. So they're really looking for products that really pop on a table. And that's kind of the system. And then they try to make products that are very useful to us. So this is a very useful system. Oil brushers, what they are basically oil washes already pre-packaged. So I'm sure many of you guys have used To Me as Panel Accent, which is a straight oil wash for pin washing or panel lining. That's really thin. These are thicker than that. These are made to do a lot of the other things that you would use oil paints for. Not saying you couldn't thin these down even more to get a wash out of them because they have great colors like Starship Filth, which would make a great wash. But these are a little thicker to do a lot of the other things that you can use oils for. What's really cool is that this container has like a lip in here. When you pull it out, it pulls off some of the excess off the brush. So you don't come out with a super loaded brush. You have a brush ready to work with. So one of the main things that they will show you to do with these is streaking. So you would just dab a little bit up here. And this I did this very subtle job on bare plastic. Come on, focus. There we go, I guess. A little grainy today. Sorry about that. But so that was very subtle. All you need is some oil paint thinner. And actually, I'll show you guys how to do this real quick because this is a really easy one to do. Brush. I have my oil paint thinner back here. Hopefully, we have some more people hopping online. See, we got one person watching so far. So the question is, why would you use oils anyway? So when you get into washes and weathering, what you want to do on those top layers is kind of sealing your bottom layers, and then you want to use something that's opposite of your top layers. So if I use acrylics to do my weathering and I went overboard, I couldn't clean them up because if I try to clean up the acrylics, I had danger of pulling away the lower levels. So even if I top coat it with like lacquer thinner or a lacquer top coat, I still might eat into that lacquer top coat trying to clean up the acrylics. But if you use an oil and you use either oil thinners or even better, maybe lighter fluid sometimes, that won't affect your lacquer or your acrylics below it. So it's like building levels so you don't damage the level below. So that's one of the main reasons you want to use oils as your weathering. So let me. So I'm using actually Mig thinner. I think this is the different Mig though. It's not the other one's Mig Ammo that makes these oil brushers. This is the other Mig. So I got a little bit of that on there. So now I'm just gonna take what color you want to do here. Let's do earth. They make rust and all kinds of great colors, but these were the ones I could easily grab because a lot of them were sold out actually. So I'll just put a little bit here, a little bit there. See, even with this, I have some decent control with the brush that comes with it. Now I'll come in with a damp brush with a thinner on it, and then I'll drag these out. Now, a lot of times it's good to let them sit for a while, but I want to give you guys the best quick results so you can see it's happening. But usually you want to let it sit for like 5 minutes so it kind of gets a little tackiness to the surface so you're not just dragging it all away. And now we're just doing some nice oil streaks or rust streaks, depending on the color you use. And you could just leave some up here if you want, so it's like where it's settled. And there you go. And you can make that thinner, lighter, whatever you want, wider, erase it off, you just add some more thinner. See, pull that away. Make that really fine. So those are the kind of effects you can get with streaking this product. Very easy. Okay, so that's streaking, right? That's simple. You could also take some of it and you could sponge it on as rust effects, right? That'd be simple. If we want to do that real quick, we can do that. So in that case, we would just need a broken sponge. Actually, I don't really like those sponges that much. I kind of like these sponges you find in packing materials, especially for like Gundam's size. So let's this time try earth clay. So I'll put a little dab of that on a surface. So we got a little bit of that there. Dab, and then I'm gonna remove majority of this so I can barely see it. And now I can sponge this on. So this is the same kind of thing we could do with those the pencils. And the pencils are water soluble, so those you just need water to work with. Which, if you let your acrylics really dry and let them sit for a while, water will be perfectly fine on them once they've hardened. But you have to make sure you let them fully cure. The oil paint, you don't have to have it fully cure as much. I mean, it's always good to let your stuff cure, but you could probably go from doing acrylics to oils like in a day. So just light dabbing, sponging. Pretty basic technique. These are all the obvious things you do with it, right? Nothing. I haven't surprised you with any of those ideas. Let's try something else. Let's step it up a little bit. So a technique you see a lot is the dot matrix stuff. You see tank guys do this a lot. So they would paint this in a olive drab color for an American tank maybe. And then to give it a little more interest in a filter technique, they would put little dots all around here. And then they would blend them in with a thinner on a brush and just blend them in, streak them down. So there'd be lots of streaks and color variations. Another little trick I figured out just playing around with this stuff is you can kind of build up a layer of paint just by doing the dot matrix. So all I'm doing is put little dots of this color in. Probably went a little too heavy there. Pull some of that up because that's way too heavy. Let's start over. I don't like that. Start over. So where's a little thinner? Brush that away with some thinner. Start this all over again. I don't like that. Way too much paint. All right, so there you go. Clean it right back up to starting again. So, and that was on the top of primer. So that's not even no top coat or anything. They don't mess with each other. That was probably primed maybe a week ago. All right, a lot less this time. So I'm just doing dots everywhere. And now I'm gonna go through a bunch of the colors. So I kind of want a green color, maybe like almost a Zaku color here. This one's really bright, right? So this being bright, I'm only going to use it in the middle because I want the middle to be a little lighter if I do this right. And see, this is how you can build effects that almost look like you airbrushed it, right? Because we're going to have variations not only of color, but where they're placed at. Here's the dark green. I'm going to take the dark green, I'm going to put that towards the outer part. So it's like a shadow more, almost like we pre-shaded it. So now my dark greens are on the outside. Let's go with the medium green. Building these colors up. Now this technique, it's gonna be kind of funky. I don't know if many people would do it, but people who don't do traditional painting and are scared of paintbrush and can't mess with the airbrush yet, this is an interesting idea. And not too many people are using oils out there, especially in the Gundam world, but I found this very interesting. It gives a lot of depth in the color. So what's this, the dark brown we're doing now. We'll keep the darker colors to the outside. And lastly, we have a very light brown. So light brown is going to go on the inside, right? Now we're going to take a sponge, on these makeup sponges, I'm just going to dab and blend. Dab it all together. So it'll start looking like a hot mess at first, but enough dabbing we'll start getting a uniform color. Some of the colors seem to saturate a little bit more, so you got to dab them a little bit more, especially those dark colors. And some of the brighter colors, the medium colors seem to go away right away, but see, now we have a very interesting color. I would keep dabbing that because I still see a lot of saturation in certain spots. And this would take a couple of runs because, as you can see, it's pretty light right now. So you might have to do 2 layers of that. All right. Let me see. Somebody streaked away the one I tried before. Here's the same kind of thing on bare plastic, but this is in streaks. So we dabbed the matrix on and then streaked it down. This is on bare plastic, and we did the full dabbing at a heavier level. So you went from that to that color green. And so you can see with this one, on the gray, it would be much better if it was done in an olive green. This would give depth. So if you had a primer can, you could spray your kit in just a base color of a green and then build it up in some more interesting shades. But I would suggest with this one, you let it dry. Now, the problem with oils is they take a while to dry. So you're talking about a couple of days for that to fully cure. But you could add more, and the good things you could always take away in that period of while it's drying easily. But oils definitely, when they do dry tougher than acrylics. So that's one way to do that. Now, some of these colors seem to have more, are a little thicker, right? So this color especially I noticed is pretty thick and gives great coverage. So here's that bright green again. I could just do this. if I wanted to actually paint with this using a sponge technique. So again, if you're already comfortable with painting and stuff like that, this is probably not that useful. But if you're somebody who's like wants to paint stuff but needs a simplified way to do it, you're not into brush painting, you're not into the airbrush yet. Look at that. The coverage of this is silky smooth. There's no lines, there's no nothing. Here's a section I did days ago, and now it's finally drying up. Looks really nice. This one I did with the green, which was not as opaque. So I think this was like, which green was this? I think this was the darker green. I think this was a Mecha dark green. Wasn't opaque, but I did one lighter coat, and then on the outside I did another coat to let the inside be lighter. And that's what I got. You could also dab it away probably to get to a fade effect if that's what you're trying to go for. This side was streaked. So that's the brown. A couple days ago, you probably need another layer there. But this bright color, very opaque. And it comes out very nice. All right, that's cool. So we've seen browns and we've seen greens, and obviously they have like off-whites and different lighter colors of shade and soot and rust, and they have starship filth, which will all be great for normal weathering and streaking and stuff like that. How about you want to mess with metallics? Here I try their metallics. I was like, I don't know what you do with their metallics. I tried streaking them. They weren't as cool as streaks because metallic doesn't really streak. I mean, because if your whole kit was metallic, it would work. But I tried, what color is this? We have aluminum. Aluminum is interesting. So smear a little bit on here. Aluminum, it seems like you have to streak it, which is actually kind of cool for aluminum because aluminum, if you think about like the DeLoreans, had streaked aluminum. So that actually really works if you want to go for that streaked look. But if that's not what you want, then all you have to do is come back and sponge it flat. And then the streaks are pretty much gone. And you have a really nice metallic. I can imagine once you get that, once that really sets in and dries up, then you can come back and put a top coat on and look really nice. So I think that's an extremely easy way to get a nice flat metallic look. And like I said, if you want the lines in there, very easy to do. Just streak it and you get those lines and they're perfectly uniform. And from a scale perspective, that's how a DeLorean would probably look scaled down. So definitely good for like that sheet aluminum, I think they call it. All right. I had trouble with this gold. This gold is funky. Not a fan of the gold. So be real with you guys, not a fan. It's clumpy. I can't figure out a way to use the gold. No idea. So we did aluminum, right? There's one more color. Gunmetal. That's a favorite for inner frames and stuff like that. Though I would definitely prime your inner frame before you put this stuff on there because oils can be hot to that PC plastic. I would suggest priming anyway in any case, but definitely if you're going for that PC plastic. So rub some of that on. This one seemed to work perfectly fine with just dabbing it, but I'm sure it works the same way as the aluminum. If you slide it too, it'll work really well. But you can just dab it in. You can slide it if you want, but I think the gunmetal works really good with the dab. So very nice coverage and a really good color. This is almost like a dark steel more than a gunmetal. I usually think gunmetal a little darker, but maybe if you went 2 layers, or if it was over black, I'm sure it would. You also could use this as a dry brush. You could just dry brush it over the edges, and you get those that's way too strong because I got too much on here, but you could easily dry brush this over edges of a Gundam and get. Oh, that's what I did. Let me show you. So here you go. Already a dark color like a gun. So let me try to get most of this off of the surface here. All right, here we go. See if we can do a little bit of. Now, if this was painted black, it'd be excellent, but this already kind of has a gunmetal look, so I don't think it's working as well. But pretty much that's the idea. You could just brush it along here. It should have been primed because it's not picking up. But if you remove most of your paint off of your sponge or brush, you use it as a dry brush, and it gives a very nice gunmetal effect. So that's several ways to use a product. Let me know what you think of this stuff. Like I said, you could thin this down to a wash if you needed to, and use it straight as a wash for panel accenting, or you could use it the way it is. It can be used, and many of the colors are probably opaque enough to actually sponge on, at least in 2 layers, and you'll have a very nice coverage. Or you can use them as streaking and dot matrix, and so many different variants that you can do with any other oil product, but it comes in a very nice package. If you've ever used oil paints or artist oil paints or other oil paints that come in those like metal tubes of toothpaste style, and they get all gunked up around the top and dry out and crack. So this is a product that's already thinned, ready to go, and all you have to do is use it and figure out how to use it in all its applications. So I think it's very universal, it has a lot of uses. Good product. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace. Stay healthy.